SNL with Landry Locker on travel duty for the weekend, getting ready for the holiday season. So Cody Stutes here with you on a Friday afternoon, getting you ready for the Texans and the Chiefs tomorrow. Plenty to get to on this one. The current roster moves, or the roster moves from today that gets the Texans to their current roster and what it kind of means for the near future of this team in the final few weeks of the season. The Prove It crew. Okay, the Prove It crew. Who's on the Prove It crew, and a move the Texans should make if they have the opportunity. Of course, get live in the chat. We'll answer as many of your comments, questions, joys, and concerns throughout the course of this video as we can. But the latest on the roster moves for the Houston Texans today, the Texans announcing that they are signing tight end Irv Smith from the practice squad to the active roster. By moving Smith from the practice squad to the active roster, they had to get rid of Steven Sims. They waived the kick returner / punt returner who had been a healthy scratch a number of times this season after a rocky start to his returning career for the Texans in 2024. Smith has been an elevation for a couple of weeks now, and he's done okay out there at the tight end spot. Tegan Quintiriano's injury opened the door for Irv Smith to have this opportunity, and now Smith on the active roster will pair with Dalton Schultz, and he'll play Cade Stover's role in this offense as a blocker with Dalton Schultz at that tight end spot. And Smith's had some nice moves at the tight end spot from a blocking standpoint for a couple of weeks. He doesn't bring a lot from a reception standpoint at this point in his career, but you get that blocker up there at the tight end spot with the addition of Irv Smith to the active roster. The Texans also announced that they promoted from the practice squad from this game Andrew Beck and Jared Wayne. Now, Andrew Beck is a fullback / tight end. He, of course, played fullback / tight end and special teams for the Texans a year ago, was on the team in training camp, did not make the team out of training camp, and he is back on the practice squad, and they're going to have him active for this Texans game. So he helps out Schultz and Irv Smith with blocking duties. And then Jared Wayne gets the nod here because John Mechie's going to miss this game with a shoulder injury. Wayne got an opportunity earlier in the year, promoted from the practice squad. He gets that chance here, and the Texans opting for Wayne instead of Steven Sims as that extra wide receiver that will be active with John Mechie down for this one. So that's where the roster is right now. I was surprised to not see Cade Stover headed to injured reserve. Stover, of course, is 6 days removed from having his appendix taken out, having an appendectomy and having his appendix removed. He missed last week's game against the Miami Dolphins, and he should miss the rest of the season, right? Unless he's Wolverine and he can heal up. But, I mean, last time I checked, they got to cut you open, take that thing out. It's a surgery. And everybody says, oh, well, it's not the most complicated surgery, or it's a minimally invasive surgery. Yeah, surgery's not a big deal till you're having surgery, okay? So Stover not on IR. I guess that's always something that they could do in the coming weeks if they wanted to do that, but that was something that surprised me. But Irv Smith for the rest of the season on the roster, or I guess until maybe Quintiriano's ready to come back from IR or Cade Stover's healthy again, but he'll be blocking on the outside with Dalton Schultz, outside of the offensive line, And then, of course, you have Andrew Beck for this matchup and Jared Wayne for this matchup. The one note about Andrew Beck, there's 3 regular season games left. The Chiefs game tomorrow, the Baltimore Ravens on Christmas Day, and the Tennessee Titans in the following week. Those 3 games could be 3 elevations for Andrew Beck. Boom, boom, boom. That's your max for the regular season. It starts over again in the playoffs, and you can have unlimited elevations in the playoffs. So if they wanted to continue to elevate Andrew Beck as long as this season lasted, they certainly can. That's the latest on the roster moves. Let's get to some of your comments, questions, joys, and concerns. Then we'll talk about the Prove It crew here in just a few. Javier, good to see you. Deontay Johnson to the Texans. Javier, don't get ahead of yourself. I say yes. We'll talk about why it makes sense here in just a few. Good to see you, Cam. Good to see you, Jay Fance. I must Pandaline. Appreciate you jumping in. Texans Tangents. Thank you. Thank you. BG, good to see you. Fred, appreciate you. Patrick Ding. Sims' role pretty much gone when they had Pierce, Woods, and Dell starting to return. Absolutely. Absolutely. The Bully, good to see you. Jolie 713. Jolie. Yeah, they definitely got to draft a wide receiver in next year's draft. I'll be looking at those wide receivers when I go to the Senior Bowl. Certainly talk to them while I'm at the NFL Scouting Combine as well. Pawn Shop, good to see you. And let's see here. Siraj, Yusuf, appreciate you jumping in. Colton, Beck season will save us. You know, Landry didn't catch it yesterday. We were talking about Andrew Beck. I just started listing off all the various Beck songs that I knew. And by new, I mean Beck songs that I could quickly see by Googling, such as, Super Cool, Where It's At. And then I said, Andrew Beck's not going to be a paper tiger. It went right over Landry's head. To be fair, I don't expect him to know Beck songs because I don't know Beck songs either. But yeah, Andrew Beck, far less famous than Beck the artist. But hopefully he's not a loser tomorrow. That is the famous Beck song that I know. Listen to Imos Pandeline. She says hit the thumbs up on this video. Let's talk about the Prove It crew, because this Texans matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs is a really fun one. You get to test your mettle if you're the Houston Texans against the AFC's elite. And I know that the Chiefs haven't played excellent football this year, but they've played winning football more often than not. In fact, they've only played losing football once this season. And if you could have the opportunity to make them play losing football twice this season, that would be nice for the Houston Texans. And we've talked about how you stack up and is it a prove it game? And I certainly will compare and contrast how well the Texans play in this matchup and what it could mean for this team. I would go as far as to say, if you beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City, there's not a game that you could play on your schedule outside of going to Buffalo and playing this version of the Bills that I wouldn't think the Texans can win. On their best day, can they beat the Kansas City Chiefs? And if they can, then we know what the level is for the Houston Texans. We know that on their best day, they can beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. Well, that means you can beat Baltimore in Baltimore. That means you can beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. That means you can beat Los Angeles when they come to your place. That means they can beat Denver when they come to your place. It means they can beat Baltimore or Pittsburgh when they come to NRG Stadium. You beat Kansas City in Kansas City, and I believe that your ceiling is higher on your best day than it previously was. Within that game, the Texans have got to figure out exactly what level of play they can get to. D'Amico Ryans has talked about it. Hey, it's not a measuring stick game. We don't make it any bigger than it needs to be. But he also says you've got to be excellently focused and dialed in to beat a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. So while D'Amico Ryans may not test his mettle against the Kansas City Chiefs, he may find out exactly how well his team can play. Can they play to the level necessary that he believes they need to play to beat the Chiefs? That's where I think you really start measuring yourself if you're D'Amico Ryans. You measure yourself against the team in the mirror more so than against the team that is across from you in that matchup. Can this Houston Texans team play to the level necessary to beat the Kansas City Chiefs? That's what I'm sure D'Amico Ryans is going to try to find out this weekend from this team. Within that, I feel like there's 4 elements of this team that I'll put together as the Prove It crew. And the Prove It crew starts with the quarterback, CJ Stroud. What is CJ Stroud going to be in the NFL? It's a lot tougher to answer now than it was when this season got going or this past offseason when it felt like CJ Stroud was quickly flying into the upper echelon of quarterback play. He has either tumbled, if you believe that, or he stayed the same while some other quarterbacks have passed him up. But you look at the guy across the field from him and Patrick Mahomes, and I mentioned it a moment ago. The Kansas City Chiefs have not played excellent football this season. Well, they've been able to just get it done. And sometimes the quarterback has just had to will them to victory because that's how good Patrick Mahomes is. If CJ Stroud was a part of that type of performance against Patrick Mahomes, perhaps you'd start to see that CJ Stroud could be in what I call Mahomes' rogues gallery. If you believe Patrick Mahomes is going to win, say, 7 Super Bowls in 20 years, you want to be one of the teams that wins one of those other 13 Super Bowls, a la Tom Brady's situation. Tom Brady won 7. In that time, Peyton Manning won a couple. Ben Roethlisberger won a couple. Russell Wilson won. Joe Flacco won. You start to see all these different other quarterbacks win. So who's ready to be in the challenging Mahomes category? I wouldn't put CJ Stroud there just yet. Certainly Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen with what they've brought to the table. Allen maybe going to win an MVP. Lamar's already got 2 under his belt. They're in that category right now. Some of the NFC elites, like whatever San Francisco situation is at quarterback. I say whatever San Francisco situation is because it feels like just 49ers quarterback is there. Jalen Hurts, what he's done in Philly and how they've accomplished things in Philadelphia and the run that they've been on and how successful they've been. CJ Stroud's still trying to find his place. This would go a long way into figuring out exactly where his place is in the quarterback pantheon. You will yourself and your team to a victory in Kansas City against Patrick Mahomes. That's a really impressive victory. That's a feather in your cap. That's a notch on the headboard. That's you get my point. Okay. Stroud in the prove it crew. Not that he has to prove it to us like, hey, we don't think he's very good. Go be good. That's not what this prove it is about for CJ Stroud. This is about finding where he is in the echelon of quarterbacks here in not only the AFC, but the NFL as a whole. Prove it crew number 2, Titus Howard. Look, he's the left guard for this team, and he's probably going to be the left guard for the rest of the season while Juice Scruggs is still nursing that foot injury. I don't believe they should make the change back to Juice Scruggs. Let's see if Titus Howard can solidify and hold down that left guard spot. And if he can, then maybe he's the left guard in 2025. I made that argument earlier this week here on YouTube. If Titus Howard works at left guard here to finish 2024, make that be the plan in 2025. Move on from Shaq Mason. Then you got Fisher, a good center battle between Patterson and Scruggs, Titus Howard at left guard, and Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. Make it happen from that standpoint. But Titus Howard at left guard, week 2 of this year's experiment with him at left guard, it should look a little bit better. Even though the opponent is better, it should look a little bit better. A couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago to the day, I think it was 2 years ago to the day yesterday. 2 years ago to the day yesterday, Titus Howard played left guard. Chris Jones played for the Kansas City Chiefs in that game, and Titus Howard had a day, one of his best games in his career at left guard from a Pro Football Focus standpoint. Chris Jones's pass rush rating from Pro Football Focus was the lowest of the season in that very game, and just 1 hurry and 1 pressure allowed from Titus Howard against Chris Jones and the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years ago. If he could replicate something like that, that would go a long way into solidifying this offensive line, making sure that they can protect C.J. Stroud. Mahomes has got some protection issues. Protect C.J. Stroud, have him play a solid game, and all of a sudden you kind of see how the Houston Texans can win this football game. But Titus Howard, let's see what he's got in week 2 of the left guard experiment this season and see if he can improve after he made the move to left guard last week. Prove it crew number 3. You knew this name was going to be on here. Bobby Slowick. Figure it out, man. Figure it out. Okay. I watch week after week after week, team after team after team. I watch teams figure it out with whatever the situation is. Bobby Slowick, you got to figure it out. Prove it that you can get some things going. It was a disappointing performance against Miami. They had very few passing yards. They couldn't get the ball going on the ground from a rushing standpoint. You have that offensive performance against the Kansas City Chiefs, you're going to lose, and you're going to lose by a big margin. Bobby Slowick's got to get things going on this offense. I know I sound like a broken record because we've been saying it for weeks, but find something that works. Stop throwing screens to Robert Woods in critical situations. Get Nico Collins going early on first down like you did against Jacksonville. Find a way to get Tank Dell the football in space so he can use his acceleration and make guys miss. Bobby Slowick, you're still in the Prove It crew, and you'll be in the Prove It crew basically forever. So Bobby Slowick's in the Prove It crew. Prove It crew number 4, about the whole defense for the Houston Texans, okay? This is not the most impressive Kansas City Chiefs offense that we have ever seen, okay? Their tackle situation is a disaster, though their interior is good, but their tackle situation is a disaster. That should be great for Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter are built for this matchup. Yes, I know Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown are fast, and DeAndre Hopkins is still good. This is why you have Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. Let them get out there, take care of the business against the guys that they're on. Jimmy Ward on the inside. Let's see what you can do in the Petrie position. Let's see what the linebackers can do. They played well last week against Miami. They were ready for a lot of stuff, but we're only a few weeks removed from Will Levis marching up and down the field and Mac Jones marching up and down the field on this defense. The Kansas City Chiefs have not been incredible on offense this year. They've very much been the just enough crew most of this season. 27 points against the Ravens the first week of the season, 28 points against the 49ers, 27 against the Raiders. They only broke 30. Well, they haven't actually broke 30. They got 230 a couple of times this year. Last week against the Browns, I know it was inclement weather, but 21-7. A couple weeks ago against the Chargers, then the Raiders, 19 points against the Raiders and the Chargers. You've got a much better defense than the Raiders. You've got a much better defense than the Chargers. Go out there, make Patrick Mahomes' life a living hell, a living, breathing, right there, Arrowhead Field, Kansas City hell. Make it hell on Patrick Mahomes. Prove that you are every bit the elite defense that we believe the Texans are. We'll get to Deontay Johnson here in just a moment. Let's get through some of your questions. Gustavo with the super chat, he jumps to the front of the line. What do you think about Charles Omenihu's comments? Well, if you haven't heard Charles Omenihu's comments, this is a perfect opportunity for me to go and play them for you. Charles Omenihu, of course, a former Houston Texans defensive end. He was a mid-round draft pick and played his way into some opportunities with this team, and was on a podcast this week with Alex Okafor called something about a face mask. Off the face mask, front of the face mask. The name's on the video here. Here's some of Charles Omenihu's comments if you haven't seen them, and listen to what the former Texans defensive end had to say.
Really, I wanted out.
Yeah.
And I'm not good at hiding my facial expression, so like, or my body language that. So I made it like, bro. And I remember Coach King with a D-line coach, but should have never been our D-line coach. I'm so glad I can talk so freely about this, because like, there's nothing they can do to me. Yeah, Coach King was like, yeah, man, you're not gonna be the starter this week. I'm like, and then he was like, is that gonna be a problem? Like, he tried to come at me.
Yeah, he was trying to bait you a little.
You feel me?
Yep.
And I took the bait. It got under my skin, bro. I was not happy at all. I was telling David, like, I was calling David, like, bro, I'm ready to get up out of here, bro.
Mm-hmm.
For real, like, trade me. And I went straight to Coach Cully and was like, what's the problem? Like, y'all lying to me, blah, blah, blah. Let's call him out on this shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, bro, they beat around the bush. You know, I look back, I was ain't gonna lie, when I was packing up my crib, I was crying.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm gonna make this clear. I don't fuck with this organization at all. And I cannot wait to play them boys. I literally cannot wait. Yeah, it's definitely gonna be some fire, but
Yes, if you hadn't heard Charles Omenihu's comments, that's what he had to say, amongst many other things. He didn't love his time here at the end. I know that Jack Easterby was still a part of the organization, and I'm sure Omenihu didn't love his interactions there. It seemed like he didn't really like Nick Caserio that much either. They sort of made him a culture example, shipped him out to San Francisco. Look, he's rightfully so. I guess he's bitter. It feels like, I could see it from his shoes where he'd be upset. He didn't take any ownership of anything that he might have done wrong. So, but we all have trouble doing that. Gustavo, appreciate the super chat. Of course, super chats jump to the front of the line. Let's get to some of your comments, questions, joys, and concerns, and we'll talk about Deontay Johnson. A dairy fool. Low key, this game going to come down to keeping it from being a one-score game for Mahomes and the Chiefs that pull off their dark magic voodoo. Yeah, I don't know if they're sacrificing chickens below the stadium or whatever, but man, they always have something at the end, or they force the other team into a mistake, or the other team makes a horrific mistake, like when the center for the Raiders snapped the ball before the quarterback was ready. I mean, when have we ever seen the Texans do that? Last week, so somebody's always making a mistake, giving the Chiefs a chance there. Yusuf says, I want to guard in the first round and receiver in the second. Switch them, man. Get you a wide receiver in the first round. Go find a veteran guard. I'm tired of the young guys on the offensive line. It ain't working. Go give me some old guys. I know Shaq's an old guy, but it worked last year. Don't pay Shaq money, though. The whole line will have Mahomes running for his life. I must Paneline says Stingley interception. I do feel like when it ends up being Stingley and Hopkins, that's a great matchup for Derek Stingley. I wouldn't go as far as say Stingley getting an interception because Mahomes may be smart enough to not always challenge him the way that Tua tried to challenge him last week, but pass breakup, certainly. Stingley interception would be tough, although I bet you could sprinkle a little bit on that. Will Daniil jump to the top of the sack chart this week? Well, I certainly hope so. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? KC's fourth most in the league with blitzing. Yeah, you're going to have to be ready. You have to be ready. Get the ball out quick. Get it to Nico Collins. Get it to Tank Dell. Get it to Joe Mixon, to Robert Woods, to Schultz. The ball out quick. Let's see here. James Clancy. This matchup is eerily similar to the Jets' alien QB, decent receivers, monster DT. Yeah, that's true. Didn't have Nico for the Jets, though. We got Nico for this one, so hopefully it'll be a little bit better. Will got hurt in that Jets game. Probably a little bit different if Will plays the rest of the game. Johnny Lambo just watched Christian Harris on Kunkel's show. Great insight for Harris on his injury and how he's feeling. Yeah, kicking it with Kunkel, with Will Kunkel. It's a great show. He interviews a key sports figure every week during football season. It's mostly been football players. He's had To'o on there. He's had Will Anderson on there. He's had Dario Gomawale on there, and now he's had Christian Harris on there. So it's a good job. Good job. That's the first time Christian Harris has talked about anything because he wasn't in the locker room much this week. So he talked with Kunkel. Good job. Good job. John says, go Chiefs. No. Cody got bars. I've been known to rhyme a time or two. Damn it, Bobby. I don't have the sounder like Landry does, but yeah, damn it, Bobby. We will have some damn it, Bobby stickers, though. I'm working on those. Let's see here. Let's see. None of those people are here anymore. He's still holding this over the organization. Yeah, I mean, Casario's still here, but no Easterby, no, defensive line coach that he didn't like, So, I mean, look, Amenahu, mad. I get it. I understand it. Don't take responsibility for anything that you did. That's fine. Am I worried about Charles Amenahu? No, I've got far more things to worry about from the Kansas City Chiefs defense than Charles Amenahu. Let's see here. Rudy says it. Let's talk about it. Deontay Johnson to the Texans. Man, that would be a really solid move. The Texans should claim Deontay Johnson off of waivers. He was waived by the Baltimore Ravens, and so he's subject to the league's waiver process. The waiver order is reverse of the standings. So the Chiefs are last. The New York Giants or the Raiders, I'm not sure exactly who they determine it, but they're first. And so Johnson will have to make it all the way down to the Texans, but the Texans should claim Deontay Johnson if they have that opportunity. They should put in a claim for him. And he is a veteran wide receiver that had a lot of success. I say a lot. That's the wrong way to phrase that. He's a veteran wide receiver that has had success in this league and was a serviceable player early this year for a bad Carolina Panthers football team. When Bryce Young was playing bad, Deontay Johnson was a serviceable player for them. In fact, he played 7 games for the Panthers. And in those 7 games, Deontay Johnson almost eclipsed the season-long production of John Mechie, Robert Woods, and Xavier Hutchinson combined. Deontay Johnson in 2024, 31 catches, 363 yards, and 3 touchdowns. John Mechie, Robert Woods, and Xavier Hutchinson combined 38 receptions, 389 yards, and 1 touchdown. I know Deontay Johnson's not going to be a number 1 receiver. I know Deontay Johnson's not going to be a number 2 receiver. But Deontay Johnson can come in here and play football better than John Mechie and Robert Woods and Xavier Hutchinson have this season. And if Deontay Johnson had started the year with the Houston Texans, he would have better stats than those three guys. He is a better football player right now than those guys. Did things go south in Baltimore? Absolutely. Do any of us know the true story? No. Do you have belief in DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud to lead in a locker room? I do. Stefan Diggs was supposed to be this giant head case, awful. Teammates hated him. And then he came here and everybody loved him. That's Stefan Diggs with cachet, with juice in the conversation. Deontay Johnson's got no juice. Deontay Johnson's got no cachet. He'd just be excited to be on a team, have an opportunity to play football, get out there, run around, and catch the ball from a quarterback. He'd be excited. DeMeco Ryans, CJ Stroud, they'd keep him in check. I'm not worried about what went wrong in Baltimore. I'm worried about the fact that John Mechie, when he's healthy, he's not playing this weekend, can't get open. I'm worried that Robert Woods can't get open. I'm worried that Xavier Hutchinson can't get open. Will Deontay Johnson get open more than them? Yes. Is he still the same guy that was pretty darn good a few years ago? No, obviously not, but he's better than what you have. And it costs almost nothing to have him on this team. It's a league minimum contract. So if you get the opportunity to add him to the team, you should add Deontay Johnson to this roster. Now, as I look at the NFL standings, there are a number of teams that could and should claim Deontay Johnson before they get to the Texans. Among them, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could use him. The Los Angeles Chargers could use him. The Los Angeles Rams could use him. You could even make a somewhat decent argument that the Indianapolis Colts could use him. Like, there are teams that could claim him, that could get a couple of games out of him and see what they have. The Texans wouldn't have him for Baltimore, though he'd be a nice resource. Talk a little bit about him, what you find out in Baltimore. Wouldn't have him for Baltimore, but you get him ramped up with Tennessee, and then you have him as an option in the playoffs for however long that playoff stretch is. He'd be headed towards the playoffs. He'd have an opportunity to play. He can get open better than the guys that you have been playing, and it's a low-cost, medium-sized reward return. If a guy just gets open 2 or 3 more times over the course of a game, the Texans' offense would be better. Deontay Johnson can do that. Deontay Johnson can do that. As Rudy says, he can be serviceable for sure. Patrick notes the things that they were saying about Stefan Diggs. Yeah, the blue boy. I'm good on Deontay. He's a cancer in the locker room. He had one bad stint with Baltimore where they wouldn't put him on the field. They wouldn't play him. Like, I mean, come on. Come on. Like, you don't believe that DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud could get this guy set on the right path? Come on. Come on. Is there a case where we go back-to-back Harbaughs in the playoffs? Yes, that is possible, though unlikely. You'd have to see an upset. So you could play the Chargers, so you play Jim Harbaugh in the 4-5 matchup, and then you'd have to have an upset to send a low-seeded team to Buffalo, and then you get Baltimore. But yes, a Harbaugh, Jim, John, maybe even, no, you probably won't get Jim, but Jim, John is certainly possible, Patrick. Gilly says he's going to the game. I was at the playoff game, 24-0. I watched it live. I'm still recovering, as we all are. As we all are. Man, what a disaster that thing was. What a horrific moment in franchise history that was. James, with a phrasing that I will say to most anybody on any other team that's got an attitude problem, DeMeco can fix him. DeMeco can fix him. I believe in DeMeco Ryans. I believe he can fix Deontay Johnson and get that malcontent label off of him and get him an opportunity to be on this team. But he's a veteran. Does he go through waivers? Yes, he'll have to go through waivers. And again, there are teams that should and could claim him prior to the Texans getting the opportunity. Do you think Mechie or Hutch will be back next season? I would think both of them get opportunities in training camp, and they're going to have to earn their spots on this team. That's what I would think about Mechie and Hutchinson. Danny asks, Cody, how much of our offensive struggles do you attribute to poor O-line play versus play calling? I attribute most of it throughout the course of this season to poor O-line play. So I would go more than 50% to poor offensive line play, and then I would add in a good measure of Bobby Slowick's offense not really being what it needs to be. Scotty says, Cody, where are you watching the game at tomorrow? From the command center here. I got the screens. I'll have multi-screen situation, Texans on the big one, so command center tomorrow for me. Patrick says, D'Amico is who we thought Jack Easterby was. I never thought Jack Easterby was for real, so don't put that on me. Dime, era good vibes. Yeah, D'Amico Ryans is the genesis. He's the inflection point that started the era of good vibes for this team. I believe D'Amico Ryans can fix players, and I believe that D'Amico Ryans wouldn't let one minimum salary wide receiver ruin his locker room. I don't know why people think that one guy can come in and totally change things that have been in place since the middle of July. Like that's not how locker rooms work. Like what's Deontay Johnson going to do? Come in and start sleeping with everybody's wife? Like that's not how locker room cancer works. Like a guy that's here for a couple of weeks is not going to change the makeup of the locker room. That's not how locker rooms go about things. And see, I've already convinced Blue Boy. Maybe D'Amico Ryans can. If anybody can, it could be him. Gustavo bought a ticket for the playoff game. Hopefully we can pull off a win. Look, you're guaranteed a home playoff game, so pick up a playoff ticket if you want to go see them in person. Don't know exactly who they're going to play just yet. I would tell you the likely outcome right now, to me, feels like the Baltimore Ravens, so it'd be similar to the Browns situation for a couple of years, play the Browns late in the year, play them at home in the playoff game. Feels likely to be the Ravens because they own the tiebreaker over the Chargers, so that'd keep the Ravens from slipping. And the Steelers currently have the tiebreaker and a one-game lead over the Ravens. If the Steelers beat the Ravens tomorrow, then they probably lock the Ravens in to a wild card spot. It'd be very hard for the Ravens. In fact, I think at that point it would be impossible for the Ravens to catch the Steelers because they would have lost the tiebreaker and only have 2 games left and be 2 games behind. Oh, Patrick's saying that's who Jack Easterby thought he was. Yeah, there you go. I misunderstood, Patrick. Halston Keller says, I know Justin Reed is ready. I don't think Justin Reed has any hard feelings for this team. I think Justin Reed, he went out there, had a free agent opportunity, got paid, and I don't think there's any hard feelings. We actually talked about the beef in this matchup. Tim Settle versus Kansas City, Amenahu versus the Texans, Steven Nelson, a bunch of different things. Check that out on my YouTube channel. That's a fun video Landry and I put together. We talked about steak, a lot of steak there, a little bit of barbecue conversation for the foodies. So that's a good one. Bel Air de Trey Baby 3. A lot going on there, but okay. Bel Air de Trey Baby 3. If I'm going back to the last time I had Super Bowl hope, 31-24 Texans, same score as the our first down catch to seal the game, 2 scores from the defense, 1 from the special teams. All right, I like it. All right. Halston asks, between Justin Reed and Jimmy Ward, who gets the biggest hit? I think Jimmy probably lay some wood tomorrow. Watch out, Pacheco. Okay. Watch out. Danny says our front office needs to go full throttle into helping out Stroud Mixon next year. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Maybe this offseason will be to the offense what this offseason was to the defense. Really good depth and some difference makers. The Texans just got difference makers on offense, Diggs and Mixon, but the depth wasn't quite there in the additions. Darius says, I'm on board with Landry with bringing in OBJ. I don't think he's watched. Just needs an opportunity to instantly be put in that third receiver. Mechie's just too inconsistent as a 3. I do not physically believe in Odell Beckham Jr. I do not believe that he can go out there and do what is necessary of a NFL wide receiver anymore. I mean, he was active plenty of times for the Dolphins this year, and he has a whopping 9 catches for 55 yards. So he's averaging a catch a game. And I know that's better than maybe some of the stuff the Texans have put out there, but I just do not physically believe in Odell Beckham Jr. anymore. Just don't physically believe in him. So, okay. That will do it for our Friday afternoon SNL. We'll get the podcasts up for you. So you have 2 different podcast shows to listen to. One from this morning when Landry and I were live on his channel, talking a little bit about Tank Dell, getting him going. And then this one, of course, here from the afternoon. So we talk about Deontay Johnson, the Prove It crew, and a little bit more from this one. SNL channel is rolling. Appreciate everybody for tuning into these. Watch on the SNL channel, giving us the thumbs up on here, subscribing, telling your friends about SNL. Having a great time. Don't forget to check out the locker room with all Landry's stuff. Check out all my stuff. The Cody Stutes channel. Houston football. All that great stuff. We'll have stuff for you tomorrow after the game. I got some more stuff coming for you today, before the game. Houston football as well. Plenty of good stuff. Appreciate everybody for jumping in, hanging out with us today, this afternoon, and talking a little football. And very much appreciate the support. It's been incredible on my channel, Landry's channel, now this channel. You guys are awesome. Y'all do a great job, and I love talking football. And we still got a few more games here in the regular season, a playoff run. The offseason will be great. Man, can't wait. I'm pumped. Everything I get really excited about with football? When I watch John Gruden talk about football, I get excited about football. So watched him install a play with the folks over at Barstool. And I knew some of the stuff he was talking about. I didn't know everything, but man, it just got me pumped, hyped. Watching him get excited for football makes me excited for football. And I hope that watching me get excited for football makes you excited for football. So appreciate everybody for watching. Landry would tell you, whatever happens, we're all in this together. And I tell you every time, I want you to eat good, sleep good, be good. And we'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.